Ruler School is brought to you by Happy Little Hug Factory and these amazing patrons.
Extra special thank you to guest lecturer patrons Brody Harris and Lance Albertson.
Thank you for your support. Enjoy the video. Hey there everybody, DMO73 here, back with another feature match for this week. Today I am playing Time Spinning Witch, including all of the cards from New Dawn Rises. This is Ryan Miles' list from Minneapolis, so if you've seen that list before, it'll look a little familiar. And I'm playing against my friend Kenneth, who is playing his take on Kirik Aggro. So as we're going into states this weekend, I thought this would be a good match to show you guys, just to kind of show how Time Spinning Witch has a lot of protection against aggro, just in general, and kind of why Kirik itself just hasn't really been talked about too much lately. But hopefully you guys will enjoy the match, and again, a huge thanks to Kenneth for being willing to sit down and play with me here. So I will be going on the play as I won the die roll after many attempts after many draw attempts. Opening turns for Time Spinning Witch are typically trying to get like a turn 1 statue into a turn 2 beyond the threshold of time, so you kind of like ramp ahead pretty quickly. Other than that, you're looking for things like Distortion of Time, Lorite 7 Disciples, that kind of stuff to kind of set yourself up. And against Kirik, you're really wanting to see kind of some bounce spells if possible. See, my hand is Koga, Mosasaurus, Viola, Lorite, and I believe the other card is indeed a statue. So we're kind of waiting here because we shuffled up before time on the round, or the beginning of the round was started. So pardon me eating ice cream. Waiting for our 50 minutes on the round to begin. So calling that first stone, hitting a magic stone at a time, playing the Idol of Magic and going ahead and pass. It's a very standard opening turn for Time Spinning Witch and really does help it get ahead. Goes to 3 will at the beginning of turn 2. Seeing a Howell pig on Kenneth's side and passing the turn over to me. Calling Stone, hitting a Stone of Chaos. Choosing to go ahead and use the Distortion of Time right now. Seeing if I can maybe draw into a Dragon's Lord's Breath. I believe I actually do draw into a Dragon's Lord's Breath there. Dragon's Lord's Breath is an excellent card against Kirik, mainly for the fact that it can potentially remove 2 cards from the field for that will combination of time, making it so that you can put 1 back in hand and then 1 back on the bottom of the deck. Excellent for digging those PLAs, putting them back in the deck. Goes ahead and uses Kirik's ability to dig, hits that Ground and Air Supremacy, which we're probably going to go ahead and see cast here. Casting, spending the 5, going to go get the PLA from the deck and put it at the field, then he'll get to gain 2 counters, so really he just spent 3 counters on it. Very, very strong card even in this format, especially if Kirik is on the play and your opponent doesn't have a lot of super solid removal. PLA is a powerhouse of a card, being able to deal 9 damage off the bat. Playing high speed on the PLA to get swiftness. He's not awakening it, choosing not to use the additional counters to give it the burn damage, but it will be coming at me for 7 with the pump from high speed. It's gonna go ahead and swing it at me for 7 and then double pump it, so I'll take 11 and go down to 29. In response to the pig swinging, I'm going to go ahead and use the time wheel into the idol to produce green, and then blue to create Viola, and then kill the pig. Choosing not to sacrifice the pig here, I think, is to recover Kirik, I think is an interesting call. I don't think there's any reason if pig is ever going to die that you shouldn't just recover your J Ruler. It's the same reason why if Viola is ever going to die, there's no point in not sacrificing her immediately just to remove 2 cards from the graveyard. Going to my turn, hitting a Magic Stone of Time really isn't going to help me because I don't have access to any other idols or statues right now, so the Lorite and the Koga in my hand are pretty much worthless. I don't have enough will to be able to cast Mosasaurus or the effect of of the dinosaur surfacing. So I say, you know what, let's go ahead and try to do this. We'll go ahead and lock you out. Kind of taking advantage of that little bit of a misplay and not recovering his ruler with Pig. I try to swing in with Viola, and he burns his Energize to pay Pathway Part and killing it. So the whole point of this was to kind of give myself a turn. He just gets to draw a card and pass. This lets me ramp up to being able to play Dinosaur Surfacing. I'm not going to cast it just quite yet because there's only 2 stones and it's pretty suboptimal, or at least I would think that I wasn't going to. But instead I go ahead and say, you know what, let's go ahead and do it. We'll Dinosaur Surface. Mosasaurus, when you're only going to have access to 1 stone, I can comfortably next turn cast another one because I'll still have access to 3 stones and then a called stone for a 4th stone. And he'll be able to get a 3rd stone, which means Mosasaurus won't have to worry about locking my own stuff down. So taking a little bit of a risk here, but against having kind of stopped this early game aggression pretty effectively and not really having to worry about the Piale Ellie being too much work, especially since he's burned Energize and he won't be able to play something like Pig to give it flying. Mosasaurus pretty well answers the Piale, which is exactly what I want it to be doing. So while I may have locked myself out for a turn, I've pretty well supported myself in that regard. Playing the Pig, and then goes ahead and passes. Start to sever the Chaos Stone here. I do catch that it needs to be unrecovered. Just a force of habit to kind of do my cleanup. Finally seeing that green source with Speaker Stone, which is excellent because I do have access to the Lorite. Puts me in a very strong position at this point to be able to prevent any kind of real effective comeback. I'm going ahead and cast the other Dinosaur Surfacing here, getting another Mosasaurus to lock out those 3 stones. Swinging in for the 15. Going to go ahead and throw the Pig under the bus. I think there might have been merit to throwing the Piale under the bus there instead of the Pig, just so that next turn he could have recovered and maybe gotten his counters back as well. It was kind of either way. Calls Stone there, and unfortunately no 1-drops really in his hand. He does have, it looks like, another Ground and Air Supremacy, so he could cast that to kill one of the Mosasauruses because of the 1000 damage mode, since he has a Piale Ellie. If he doesn't, then it's the other mode he could do is just to grab another Piale. The problem is, though, with 2 Mosasauruses on the field, Piale is not really going to do much. Getting to recover all my stones here. Swinging in for 15. Blocks with the Piale, so that's fine. Swinging in for another 15. Says it's fine, he's going to take it. Go down to 25. The main reason to a swing here first is to try to see what he does in terms of potentially tapping himself out or something like that. I'm going to go ahead and produce the time and then flip here. Produce double time, so now I have 3 floating time here. Use the Goddard of Piale of her to be able to use a Goddard again. Cast Distortion. Shipping the card down to the bottom. I believe that card was another Distortion. At that point, it doesn't really do me much good. And then simply using the floating time to do Distortion of Time again, and that's going to be the end of that game. There's no way for him to come back at that point, so we're going to move on to game 2. As we transition to the next game here, please go ahead and check out the Patreon down below. It helps to go to support the channel with lots of cool perks. You can also buy Force of Will swag at the Ruler School Spreadshirt down below. And be sure to hit that subscribe button and the bell to be notified when all of our videos goes live. Thank you guys so much, and let's go on to the next game. Moving into game 2 here, Kenneth deciding to put me on the draw, hopefully being able to make a little bit more of a play before I'm able to set up kind of locks on him. This is just one of the problems that Kirik kind of has, is the window is very narrow for Kirik, and they don't really have a way to stop time spending much once she gets started, which is one of the reasons why she is kind of pretty favored in this matchup. Unfortunately, doesn't even see a turn 1 play, and me having the Stone of Time into Idle Magic is kind of the perfect setup in terms of opening stone, opening play, everything else. We see a Pig come down on turn 2. Piggy, so he'll go ahead and swing in for the 5 there, take the damage where he can, takes me down to 35. You see I do have the Beyond the Threshold of Time as well. Call Stone. Filter into green. Burn my Energize and cast, won't use the blue to cast Beyond the Threshold of Time. This card lets me ramp a stone and draws me a card. This is an excellent card for me to have hit, the Speaker Stone, because now I can go ahead and play this Idol of Magic to set myself up again. Or I can even play the Angel Statue, which is even better. It draws me a card, and now I have a free will every single turn. So this essentially means that at the end of his turn, I could flash in a Lorite using the statue, then go to my turn and use Time Will with the Angel Statue again to play that Lorite 7 Disciples, which is in my hand, which is an excellent card for this matchup, being able to gain that life. The problem becomes here, if he does tap out, he really risks himself being opened up to a Distortion of Time play or a Mosasaurus play. So I'm pretty well covered in terms of what I can do based on what he plays here. Playing a Freyla doesn't get swiftness because it has Piggy, but he can use Piggy to give it swiftness, and then playing the Howell Pig, it's going to use Piggy's effects to give Freyla swiftness. Moves to swing in for 6, attempts to trigger to give the Howell Pig swiftness. I'm going to go ahead and float into green and cancel the Freyla effect using Lorite, and then I'll go ahead and take the 6 damage, go down to 29. He can just use Piggy here to give it swiftness anyway, but I just kind of wanted an excuse to be able to flash in Lorite. Calling Stone here, hitting a Magic Stone of Time. So at this point in time, I could cast a Mosasaurus and lock out those 3 stones, but I'm actually just going to go ahead and cast Lorite 7 Disciples here. Alright, 7 Disciples, gaining all of the abilities and swinging into the... Think about playing it into the Howell Pig, which probably is the best call considering I am flying, but I instead decide to go at the Freyla, and he decides to block it. He moves to try to block it with the Pig, but then I remind him that it has Swift of Flying, so it's not going to be able to do anything. So instead, he's going to give it Flying with Piggy and then block. So I still get to gain the 9 life, go back up to 38, and he gets to keep both of those cards. Still leaves me at 1 will open. 2 will open, deciding to go ahead and cast that Idol, which sets me up to a next turn being able to play green, blue for that Viola that's in my hand, which is an excellent counter card to Kirik. Although if he has a Heaven Sundering Dragon Palm, the thing to note is that the thing created by Viola becomes a dragon, so Heaven Sundering Dragon Palm can just kill it. Instead it decides to awaken, burn me for the damage, 5 damage, or burns me for 4 and then kills the Lord out of the way, which I think is a fine decision. Paying 1 to play that Ground and Air Supremacy and goes to get the PLA Ellie. The play here is probably to try to give it swiftness and then pump it up so that it can kill the Lorite 7 Disciples. He would just need to use the 2 counters, and since PLA gives him 2 counters when it comes into play, that would be a safe play to have happen. A second PLA comes down. Lots of aggression on the board here in a situation where I don't have a ton of protection. But he does tap himself out, which is a little bit of a risk. 2 counters to give that PLA swiftness. Gonna hit me for 5. I say that's fine. He's not gonna try to pump it up. Just take the 5 damage. Freyla's gonna swing in, pumping the other PLA LA up, swinging at me for 6. Say that's fine. I'll take 23. Down to 23. Swings the PLA into me for 9 damage. Choosing to pump it up twice, removing the rest of his counters. I say, now that you're attempting to pump it, float it into the green, banish to draw a card. I'll flash in the Lorite to stop the second pump. So I'm only going to take the 11, Reason why I'm doing this is because now that he's committed to attacking me, flashing in the Lorite to stop a little bit of damage. He's going to die at the end of the turn anyway, so it's a removal card, and the pig can't possibly kill my 7 Disciples. So now my 7 Disciples is going to get all those triggers back, which means I'm going to get some of the life gain back. I'll go ahead and go for the Freyla at this point now that he's low on counters, to go ahead and fly into that, kill it for 9 damage, take myself back up to 21. Calling for Stone with Time Spinning Witch, hitting a second Speaking Stone. Casting a Dinosaur Surfacing here to get a Mosasaurus. Lock everything but the basic stone. Keeping Kirik at 2 will is very, very powerful. A lot of his cards, other than Ground and Air, require kind of 2 will to make it work. So essentially, I'm limiting him to kind of 2 cards per turn at this moment. And considering the fact that he doesn't have any counters, that means that cards on his field are pretty much vanillas. Because he has to be calling stones to be able to make plays. But if he makes plays, by calling stone, he makes a lot of his cards just not do anything, which is kind of the great position you want Kirik to be in. But then that's why they have Howell Pig. That's the whole reason they run it, and so that's why that card is pretty important. Does play the piggy here, so he gets the 2 counters, which is kind of relevant. But the problem is he's still not staring down anyway to kind of deal lethal right now, and I'm threatening a lot of damage back at him, and there's no way for him to deal that Lorite 7 Disciples. So even if he swings at me, it's not really going to do much. Choosing to use the flashing green, because he gives it flying, to go ahead and flash in that Viola, go ahead and kill it, and then go to my turn. So now I've gotten even more cards off of his board, and I'm threatening an even bigger board state. Getting all the triggers off the Lorite 7 Disciples, calling a second stone. Playing another Lorite 7 Disciples, getting all the triggers. Use the floating green to play a Viola to make my Mosasaurus a flying 17 to 12. Hit him for 17, hit him for 9, hit him for 9. So 18 plus 17, 35, and I get to gain that 18 life. So going back up to 39, down to his 5. I am going to give him a turn to recover, but I'm still threatening a lot of damage here that he has to try to kill. And with only 5 will and 0 magic, 0 counters, it's going to be pretty much impossible. And he has to be able to kill both of the 7 Disciples too, because otherwise nothing happens. All of the damage he's going to do is just negated. I swing with the Viola and he blocks with the pig. There's no reason for me to not at least do that. The only thing that would be kind of punishing to do that with is if I had the will to be able to cast a Distortion of Time here. You force the blocks with the pig, and then once he's all tapped down, cast Distortion of Time. I don't have the will to be able to do it that turn, but it is something that you can do. And it is a trick with Time Spinning Witch where you could kind of bait your opponent into kind of tapping themselves down for you, and then you kind of hard punish it. Even if you're not getting a ton of value off of the cards that are kind of forcing them to tap down, stealing a turn from your opponent that way is actually a very, very strong move. It's just one of the subtle nuances of Time Spinning Witch that when you're initially practicing it, you might not think about. Playing a high speed to try to pump up the pig. Playing another high speed to pump up the pig. I say those are both fine. He attempts to give his pig flying, and in response to that, I'm going to go ahead and banish one of my Violas to remove the 2 high speeds so he can't steal even more damage. Take the 9 here from the pig that's flying in the air. Now he could have killed one of the 7 Disciples here. The problem is there's nothing he can really do at this point to stop the tide of damage that's coming at him. You would have to kill the Lorite and stick a couple more bodies to be able to deal with the Disciples. The problem becomes I can just give the Lorite Disciples by themselves, give them flying. So he has to have 2 flyers to be able to stop them, or removal to be able to stop them. And it doesn't really do him much good. And even if he does, the Mosasaurus and the Viola are both lethal as well. So he's really staring down, almost kind of too much pressure to be able to answer it, especially since he's only down to 5 life. Plays the Piale Eli from hand after doing a failed dig. Goes to my turn. Give the Laureate 7 Disciples everything. Swing in for lethal. He says yes. Tries to give one of the pigs flying. I say that's fine. Blocks with the Piale Eli, which he gave flying. So go up to 39. Swing with the other one. Attempts to give it flying. I say that's fine. Go up to 48. And then I simply swing in with Mosasaurus for lethal, and that's the game. So thank you guys so much for watching. Huge thanks to Kenneth for being willing to play against me, and for Time Spinning Witch. Deck profiles will be up this Wednesday, or this weekend for both decks, so be on the lookout for those guys. And until next time, this is DMO73 signing off.